the supernatural as something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
AM 1420, WBSM presents Spooky South Coast with your hosts Tim Weisberg and Matt Costa.
Good evening and welcome to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz, broadcasting live on WBSM and also on Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com. If you're new to the show, just go to SpookySouthCoast.com, jump into the Spooky TV chat room. You can see what's going on here in the studio, and you can join in the chat room fun during the course of the program. And you want to see what's going on tonight because we got a full house. We've got some guests here with us in the studio. We'll get to that in just a minute, but I just want to say that I hope everybody had a safe and happy Halloween. We did. We made it through. Anybody get their house egged? No? Moniz, you live in the middle of nowhere.
Good luck egging my place.
Yeah, it wouldn't be worth the travel time to get down there to egg your house. Plus, you'd probably get shot.
More than likely.
And Costa, I know you're more likely to be the one doing the egging. You don't have a microphone tonight, so you can just nod. Just like you do at the drive-thru.
Which camera's on?
I don't know. I think it's that one back there. You want fries with that? All right. All right. Let's get right into the discussion tonight. Now, we were announcing earlier on our website and on Facebook and Twitter and everything that tonight's show is going to be about demonology. We are going to talk about demonology tonight. But Jeanette Osborne and her husband Bob cannot join us tonight due to a family situation, so we wish them well. Hope everything works out well, and our thoughts and prayers are with the Osborne family. But they will join us coming up in a few weeks because they wanted to promote their new show that's starting on Spooky TV, Hellfire Radio, which is going to be a weekly discussion about demonology from Bob and Jeanette. And the Hellfire Club is their new organization that's starting. And the idea behind it is it's bringing together serious demonologists and actual exorcists together. And they're going to kind of be almost an advisory board. And they're going to help people who are dealing with demons. And they're going to talk about that when they come on and more about the idea there. But you can check out the Hellfire Club on Facebook to find out more about what they're talking about with that organization. I know Keith and Carl are involved with it, and pretty much anybody that you can think of that would be one of the go-to sources for demonology, they are getting on board. And it's really going to be, I think, revolutionary in the field because, as our guest tonight can tell us, it's hard going up against these things. I've never had to do it personally, but these guys have. I know Moniz has, and I know that a lot of the people that are out there listening has. But we have joining us from Taunton Paranormal Group, we have Scott Rodrigues and we have Rob Jacobs. I got everybody's names right? It's pronounced right. Jacobs, right?
That's right.
I was just kidding before we went on the air with Scott because his last name is Rodrigues, but in this area it can be Rodrigues, it can be Rodrigues. You know, I didn't know if you're related to Coach Rodrigues, and he's going to start calling me and telling me I got it wrong. So you guys are part of Taunton Paranormal Group. Scott, how did the group get started?
Well, we started actually a few years back with Rob and co-founder at the time, Lou Toledo. They, Rob, I guess could tell the story probably a little better because he was there initially, but
yeah, right.
Well, how did it come about? Was it people that were already investigating kind of coming together?
Well, initially, we had both had experiences. I think I started around 8 years old, and Lou was later in life, and he had an idea of trying to put a group together and do a television show, a local access show. And from there, we kind of started doing, I guess you would say officially, because we were doing things back and forth, not as a group, but just solely as individuals. So we decided to put the group together, and it initially started off as Taunton Paranormal Group, which consisted of four of us, Louie, myself, Ed Rodrigues, and Scotty, who actually was on as a cameraman at first, and after our first investigation kind of transitioned right into an investigator. So that's
how they usually rope you in.
Yeah, I had gone along, honestly, lack of better to do that night. They had asked me to go and film, so I had gone and filmed, and I think we left around, it was probably 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I looked at everybody, and I was like, all right, I'm in.
I know that's our friends at Phantom PI. That's kind of what happened too. They brought along some of the local cable access crew to get involved, and by the end of it, they were official investigators too. Yeah. It really does change your life when you get out there and you have this stuff. Had you had any experiences, Scott, before that?
Not that I can honestly say that I remember, but I'm sure probably something. I mean, I think from doing this for the time we've been doing it, I've learned that a lot of people, whether they know it or not, have had at least some type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now, can you reveal the location of where you were conducting that investigation? Was it a private home? Was it?
That's the interesting part. We actually had been doing a few quiet ones prior to, but we had gotten in touch with Father Bob Bailey, and surprisingly, he had some sort of demonic activity in his rectory. So we set up a date with him, and we went in and checked out his rectory, and we got some fantastic footage that night. We actually caught a shadow manifest up one side of a wall, went across another behind a whole pile of boxes, and out the other side. I mean, it was something we couldn't duplicate, and it was really interesting. I mean, there was a definite heaviness throughout the place, and I think we caught a few EVPs that night, some weird stuff. I mean, I don't remember. It was
for those who might not be.
This is in a rectory?
It was in his rectory, surprisingly.
Sounds like a case of world's dumbest demons.
Yeah.
I like to joke around with the rest of the group every now and then. My first investigation was actually with Father Bob Bailey and Carl Johnson.
There you go.
So,
that's right. That's a good way to get started.
Yeah.
Now, for those who aren't familiar, a lot of people listen to Spooky Southcoast. They know Carl Johnson because Keith and Carl, they come on the show all the time. But for those who might not be familiar, Rob, tell us a little bit about Father Bailey and his work.
Well, Father Bailey has started what he is calling the PWSM network. It's the Paranormal Warriors of St. Michael Network. And what that is, he's trying to get clergy together as well as paranormal groups across, the United States. So dealing with any type of demonic issues, if he can't get there, then he has, clergy in different area that are trained in this sort of thing that can then, help out whatever clients need it. And paranormal groups. He's actually put together a lot of instructional paperwork, certain prayers that they would use that would help out, paranormal groups that he thinks would be suited for this type of work.
And when you're trying to create this network, I mean, how much does experience come into play? Because a lot of these groups that are coming out there, it's almost like the demonologist on staff is kind of the new happening position. It's like somebody, originally it was you're going to be the tech guy. Now it's you're going to be the demon guy.
Right. I mean, that's as far as like demonologist, I think that word gets thrown out there a little too easily sometimes. Mm-hmm. You don't read a book or two and become a demonologist. It takes a lot of time studying and researching. You get somebody like Michelle Bellinger, who has years of experience, and she's very intelligent. She's like a walking encyclopedia. Or Ed Warren or Lorraine Warren. I mean, I would say they're demonologists, not that I would discredit anybody, mm-hmm. but, just certain terms seem to get thrown out there. Like, I mean, it's far and in between that you have a true case of possession, and people don't realize that oppression is something that's, a lot more common than possession. So, like, as far as demonologists, I would just say, you really need to know what you're doing, because it's not like dealing with a regular haunting. You're dealing with something entirely different. There's a lot of different theories on what demons are. What we believe, they're fallen angels, which make them a superior being, and it has to be dealt with in a much different manner than a haunting.
Well, and you mentioned oppression and possession. Of course, there's 3 stages generally accepted to a demon attack, and when it gets to the point where it is oppression, that's when things are getting pretty bad, and it's where it's starting to really infest your life, but it hasn't completely taken over. And what people don't realize, I think, sometimes, is that if you are in that case, if you are in that stage of a demonic case, and you try to conduct an exorcism unnecessarily, you're actually opening it up so that things can happen faster for the demon.
Absolutely, right.
Because by that person believing they're possessed, it kind of makes it easier for the demon to possess them.
Right. I mean, and, if you talk with... we did some research, and he Father Bailey kind of follows along with Father Gabriel Amorth, who actually says there's 6 different stages
Really?
that lead up to a full possession. Actually, I kind of have them written down here, so I wouldn't forget them. But I mean,
Nothing wrong with notes.
No, but first you have your ordinary type of thing, which is temptation, which everybody is subject to, you know. And then you fall into your extraordinary. I can't even talk tonight. And, you know, that would start off with external pain. He has, you know, documented that it's pain that's induced by, it would be demons or Satan. And then you go into a diabolic obsession from there. And that is more of like sudden attacks of obsessive thoughts and behavior. From that, you'd transition into diabolical oppression, and that's most common for paranormal groups. You know, when you go in and somebody's dealing with some form of demonic activity, at least according to Father Amorth, you're dealing with an oppression, which it can be, you know, it's coming from outside the person. It's not, you know, a possession by any means, and it can come from many angles, whether it be family issues, monetary issues, family relationships, even health. You know, you can just hit you from a lot of different areas. The fourth one would be infestation, which is, you know, in the home, with it can actually attach to the house, property, things, and even animals. From there, you go on to the demonic possession, which is where it takes full control over the body, but not the soul. And the sixth one would be diabolical subjugation or dependence. And that's when a person is voluntarily or willingly submits to the possession or to the demon or the devil or whatever it may be at that point.
And some people refer to that as perfect possession.
Exactly.
And that's something that I think a lot of paranormal groups aren't ready to deal with, you know, any stage of this at all, really, but especially the perfect possession idea, because if you've gotten to that point, there's nothing you can do anymore. I mean, now it's, and if you've allowed that to happen by creating in that person's mind the idea that they're possessed, it makes them more likely to become perfectly possessed.
Right. I mean, it has to be warranted by the person. They're actually, you know, willing to have it done, whether it be, I don't know, if it would be, you know, somebody that worships Satan, or it's just somebody that is, you know, wanting it for whatever reason they have, you know, for, you know, wanting to have it be possessed, or I don't know. I mean, I can't fathom it, but obviously there are some that do.
So you kind of got involved with these types of cases kind of right from the get-go, and it became kind of a specialty of your group. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, for the most part, I think Scotty would agree. We tend to get more demonic cases than standard hauntings, and I think that probably has a lot to do with Father Bailey promoting his network, and we work hand in hand. So we actually, our case manager takes care of both Taunton Paranormal and PWSM, so everything comes through the one email and phone. And then there was also the episode we did on Animal Planet, which was a different subject. I don't think we've seen much along those lines, and it kind of opened the door for a lot of people who were dealing with similar situations. And it seemed like after that, like the phone calls and emails came right in.
We had gotten calls from as far out as California or Hawaii, you know, asking us actually to get on a plane and come out and help.
And you said, sure, send us the tickets. We'll be glad.
Well, you know, we don't charge for the deliverance or the spiritual liberation or the investigation, but, you know, we have to ask a lot of times for travel expenses and accommodations to be able to get out there for, you know, a couple of days or whatever it takes. Especially with Father Bob, his schedule is very limited, running the church, and, you know, so it's hard to work it out, which is another reason for the whole networking with other groups.
So you kind of get involved right from the beginning with Father Bob, and you start going up against these demonic entities. Did you feel like you were prepared at that point? Did you feel like you were ready to go and combat these forces?
Truthfully, I think a lot of us were pretty ignorant to what might happen. You know, it's not just grabbing a camera and a K2 meter and a digital recorder and running out there like a fool. You know, you really should do your homework. And truthfully, I know I myself had done some research, and I think most of us had some sort of background.
Yeah,
but
demonology is not one of these on-the-job training.
No, absolutely
No,
not.
definitely not.
That's why I've avoided it at all costs, because they say that one of the things about it is that you have to be kind of spiritually grounded and spiritually prepared to go up against these things. And I don't have that kind of background. I don't have that kind of foundation, so I don't know what I believe. And I don't think that the time to realize that there's a God is when you're standing face to face with a demon.
Right.
Exactly.
So, I mean, do you come from religious backgrounds? Were you did you grow up in the church? Is that...
I grew up Catholic, and, I had things go on where I kind of lost my faith for a while. And, even doing the hauntings, and we kind of transitioned from doing mostly hauntings to more of the demonic cases. And, after 3 years working with Father Bob, I've kind of become his assistant in as far as the deliverance or spiritual liberation. But my faith is very strong now, and I spend a lot of time with him learning a lot of what needs to be done. I mean, any case we do, I think, even whether it be hauntings or demonic, you learn something every time, or at least I think you should learn something every time. I mean, there's just so much out there to try and absorb.
Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I mean, I think it's important to state that we didn't actually really jump into it, other than probably the last, I'd say, year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, our first big case was the rectory at Father Bob's, but I'd venture to say that it wasn't immediately following that it just, it kept pounding. It was probably about a year and a half ago that it really was like, all right, this is what we need to be focusing on more than haunts itself. I mean,
I guess part of the problem. I mean, you like to think that it's not as prevalent in the area as you think, but anybody that follows this show and knows when we talk about things like the Bridgewater Triangle and some of these psychological scars that are on this land, and some of the strange happenings that happen here, it's the perfect place for this type of thing to happen. We know that it's a very rare percentage of paranormal cases that actually turn out to be demons, but do you find that in this area, for some reason, there is a high percentage of demonic activity?
Actually, we've had a lot of cases in this, I guess you would say, Bridgewater Triangle area, but we've also had a lot from Rhode Island, and not really sure why that is, but I mean, we've had quite a few. I would say, I couldn't give a number, but quite a few in Rhode Island. We've actually traveled to New York twice, and both were for demonic cases.
We've actually got a few emails other than that we couldn't go to. It seems like a lot of people have similar stories about what's happening to them, and we can't make it to all of them, but the two that we did were very similar, and they did turn out to be true to an extent. I wouldn't say it was close to a possession, but there was definitely oppression going on in both of them, and a lot, like Scotty said, have come from Rhode Island. Taunton, we've had quite a few in Taunton as well. I think in today's day, there's definitely a rise in demonic activity. You can listen to the radio or turn on the television and just listen to what's happening out there, and I think without a doubt that there's something much more sinister at work than even 5, 6 years, 10 years ago.
Well, I think I'm gonna jump up on my soapbox here for a minute, and I mean, a lot of people feel that is the case, and they feel that it's because of the state of the world that we're in today, and the economy's down, the whole world seems to be going to shit. I'm sorry. I'm the one that always warns other people not to say those words on the air, and I did. But we have these concerns about the direction that mankind is headed, so we think that the demonic is coming in and preying on. I'm starting to wonder if the fact that there are so many of these groups out there who are putting quote-unquote demonologists on staff who are trying to investigate these demonic cases, are they responsible for giving rise to the demonic? Because, part of the problem with demons is they need to be, recognized. You need to kind of pay attention to them for them to really get their job done right. And maybe the idea that these paranormal groups are going out there and chasing after them is like gold to them. It's like, oh, look, we've made it. We've arrived. Here we are. We're stars.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I think people in general have a lot to do with it, especially the paranormal is so much more widespread now. You had, with ghost hunters. I mean, everybody knows what the paranormal field is.
I think you actually misspoke. The paranormal hasn't changed. Our reporting of it has. Our
I think
access
it's more
to
widely
the information.
recognized.
More widely recognized.
It
the
went
actual
mainstream.
activity is
No,
remains
No,
the
I don't
same.
mean the activity itself. I mean that people are more aware or you know, because of what's on television now.
Maybe
it's
more
a more
willing-
common term. You
Maybe
know?
more willing to come out with it.
We don't keep it in the closet with crazy Aunt Mary anymore.
But
Get back in that closet.
There's so many people that we even come across where they're constantly just taking it upon themselves to try and do EVP sessions or dabbling with a Ouija board, you know, or seances or whatever it may be, you know, and these things are opening portals. And there's a very thin line, at least we think, you know, using a Ouija board, and you know, that's one thing that we kind of stray away from. We try to tell people to stay away from, but if you're continuously trying to get something to respond to you, I would think that that's kind of along the same lines as using something like a Ouija board, you know. So people themselves may be drawing this stuff in. I think sometimes you may have inexperience with dealing with certain things that may falter. I mean, we've gotten a few calls, what Father Bailey has, where there's been, and I wouldn't bash anybody, but there's been other groups that have gone in, and the clients have called him and said, well, things have gotten worse. You know, is it the group or is it the homeowner? Because there is maintenance that needs to be done on their part to keep these things out.
Sure.
And a lot of times we find, if we go back, you know, he may give them religious medals to either bury in the yard or put in certain parts of the house, and we'll come back a month later and they're still sitting on the table and they haven't done anything with them, you know. And
I think part of that, though, is it might be human nature of these people to hope that if they ignore it, it'll go away, type of thing. You know, like when a bratty kid is acting up, the best plan is to not sit there and yell at him and give him attention, but to ignore him. And so I think people kind of take that approach with this, and it's kind of a catch-22, because we're better off if we can ignore them, but we have to address the issue too.
Right.
And I think with the paranormal groups going out there and doing it, you know, it creates that buffer zone between the church and the homeowner, or between the church and the person that's being targeted. It creates something that might be a little bit more, I don't want to say broad-based, but, you know, it's less constricting than to have, you know, a Catholic exorcist come in and get involved. What happens, this is a question from the chat room, though, what happens when you're dealing with one of these cases and you have to convince the homeowner that that's what's going on, and it goes against their own religious beliefs?
We've actually had that happen. It was actually a Jewish family, and said, well, can a Catholic priest cross over, you know, a Jewish, it was a Jewish man that had passed away. And his response was, you know, once you've passed over, that part of religion doesn't factor into it, I guess. He's just trying to guide them to the next area. Now, as far as something demonic, I don't really have an answer for that.
I think anytime you bring up religion in any sort of thing, but maybe even more so in the paranormal world, it's a touchy subject because of people's beliefs.
But, you know, it's kind of like the point of view that I take with it is, it doesn't matter if I believe in it necessarily. You know, not obviously I'm not going up against it. I'm talking from the perspective of somebody that's dealing with it, not battling it. But if I don't have to believe in it, the demon just has to believe in it. And, you know, that's who really needs to be the one to have it take effect. So, I mean, that could be my own ignorance, though, because, like I said, I do stay away from these cases intentionally.
Well, you know, when he's going up against something demonic, he's not doing an exorcism. You know, it's a spiritual liberation. He's Father Bailey is not an exorcist by any stretch of the imagination. I know when we did Animal Planet, they actually titled him as a world-renowned exorcist, which was not true at all. And you know, it was actually bad for him because it looked like he promoted himself that way. And he does have backing by his bishop to do the spiritual liberation, but he does not do exorcism.
So when you're getting involved with these cases, have you ever had an incident where you've had an investigator take part, or somebody else that's, you know, on the fringe of this investigation who's been affected by what you've been going up against?
Actually, I know you've been touched by something.
I've been touched by something. I couldn't tell you what it was. There was a case I actually I was scratched. There was reports that a cat or something had passed on in the building, and I had been scratched. We were all sitting in a big room doing an EVP session at a rectory in Taunton, actually, and Is it a rectory?
It was the McKinstry house.
The McKinstry house.
It was a rectory, yeah.
And I had gotten scratched, and you could clearly see the scratch marks on my legs. That was kind of, I would say probably about 3-4 months after that is when it, like I had said before, about a year and a half ago, I would say probably 3 or 4 months after that is when we started really getting into the whole demonic.
Well, we did have another member that was bitten. We did one case that was in Norton, and that one was probably the most active I think that we've done. Like I said, Ed, one of our members, was bitten on the underpart of his arm, and you could actually see teeth marks on that. One of the female members said she felt like a claw reached inside her, and she was in a full cry. I mean, I can't see how you'd fake that. And from that's where the Animal Planet episode actually came about, because this thing actually followed me home. And for 2 months, I had stuff going on, some sort of an oppression or attack during the sleeping hours that I really didn't remember myself. My wife would tell me, and you think as an investigator, I would have had the common sense to probably set up a camera right away. And
but sometimes we like to think that isn't impacting our personal life.
Right. But in the long run, I let one run for about 3 weeks, and we did capture something happening, and then we had Father Bob come in. It actually took 2 or 3 times for him to come in and do a deliverance over home to clear it out completely. So I mean, yeah, we've had a few members, even Lou. I think he got scratched across the back pretty significantly during the thing at my house during that whole episode. So it was, it's dangerous. I mean, and the room he was in was actually completely blessed. It was supposed to be, I guess you'd call it a safe zone, and
didn't
whatever
work
it was
out
got in there, and it got him. So yeah.
Well, we are talking with Scott and Rob of the Taunton Paranormal Group. If you have any questions, you can give us a call, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. You can email us, spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com. You can jump in the chat room on spookytv@spookysouthcoast.com, or you can text us, 508-444-2661. Whole bunch of ways to get a hold of us. But again, we welcome your calls. We definitely want your phone calls if you have any questions just about paranormal investigating or about the demonic in particular. Again, 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. One of the questions that came from Hilly in the chat room is the idea that there does need to be some discernment when it comes to these cases of knowing if you're dealing with a demonic entity or if you're dealing with something that's just a jerk of a ghost. And what kind of process do you go through for discernment?
Well, Father Bob has us go in and do a regular full investigation before he gets called in, and we kind of weigh it out with whatever evidence we come up with, what we might capture obviously on video or on the EVPs. And a couple of people in the group, including myself, have a type of sensitivity. I'm more empathic. I can kind of feel a difference between a human spirit and a demonic entity. Scotty himself is kind of recently kind of
in the last 6 months.
It's funny as we've been doing it. It seems like some of these things have come out in a couple of the members. So, I think for the most part, if you go into a place where there's demonic activity, there's definitely a heavy feel. Even a haunt. I mean, there's just different. I don't know how to explain it. If it's hard to really put into words, but there's a definite different feel. It's
a different feeling when you walk in. I think we've, and I mean, like I said, it's been about a year and a half. We've really been going at it, but I think we've kind of all gotten to a point where we can, and it's gonna sound bad, but we can walk into a house and just kind of feel. Mm-hmm. It's nothing that any of us do. It's just you walk in and you just kind of know.
But that's going to lead to a lot of people, especially people who are in the field, kind of scratching their heads a little bit and saying, "What are you talking about?"
Understandable.
But it's one of those things, like, unless you experience it, unless you can figure it out for yourself, then you can't really describe that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we do, other than just what we feel. I mean, we obviously go over our EVPs and video and all that, and we look at what we have and what we capture and go from there. I mean, if it seems of a for lack of a better term, a nasty figure, or a demonic figure, we'll go from there with Father Bob.
Well, one of the other things we do too is the case manager usually only has the information from the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the group goes in blank. They don't know, okay, that there was a dark figure seen in this room, or there's a cold spot that's always in this room. So if somebody goes in and, they're feeling it here, and it's kind of validated that way, if they do pick up on the certain things that are going on. And obviously the DVR has a timestamp, and so do the recorders. So if, Scotty felt something at 10 o'clock in this room, and we happen to catch something on the recorder or on the video, they kind of coincide with one another. You just kind of add it up and weigh it out and see if it is something or if it isn't. And in the end, unfortunately, it's all theory.
Yeah.
You just kind of do the best you can and try and weigh it out. And if it seems to add up, maybe you've got something.
Well, we have about 5 minutes here before the end of the first hour and before we have to take a break for the news, but we do have a call on the line. Again, the numbers are 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. Good evening. You're on Spooky Southcoast with Taunton Paranormal Group. How you
yes.
doing?
Good afternoon. This is Rocky. Everything you're saying is right. In other words, I work for God. I was blessed in 99, and I came back from the Cape because my mother had cancer. I was next to the Catholic Church, and I was across the street, and I felt something powerful coming over me, very powerful. And I was stunned. And the first word that came out of my mouth is, God, what do you want me to do? I told him, he told me to say prayers for homeless and sickness. And my mother was the first one. I told him my name, and I told my mother's name. And the first day or the second day, I know it was gone the first day, but I didn't call her. Okay? And it was gone. He brings people to me. He uses me.
God uses you to
say the prayers for people.
Kind of act as his emissary for these people.
Exactly. So no, he brings the people to me. I say for me. And I don't even know these people. Walgreens, the mayor, the president, everybody. The mayor already knows. Walgreens, Brooks. He just brings the people to me. Cancer, it doesn't matter. Now, about the other part, the state army is really haunted. There's demons in there because the demon was on me yesterday.
In the Armory building?
Exactly, because I had a friend that worked there. I didn't even know. Next to Yellow Cab on Pleasant Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He worked there. I said, I would never work here. But I didn't know it was going to be on me because the guys are with me 24 hours. He got agents around me all the time. And I was walking home. I wasn't thinking about it the first time. There was a woman in front of me. We walked by, and I felt it. When I feel something, I feel it, and I never felt it before. When I walked by there, and I went to the park right next to Purchase, in that park next to Ann's,
mm-hmm.
and I told God, there's demons on me, and I told my name in town. He took it off me in 1 second.
So you can see the demons with your naked eye. You know where they are?
Exactly. When they're on me. And when it was on her, I asked her name, and I told God about it. It was off her again. It was off her, too. And I said, don't go by there ever again. Because I joined the 700 Club a long time ago. They told me not to go by there.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't. They was on me 6 times. Friday was the 6th time. Now, I'm going north. I passed Champions.
Yep.
Went up the street. Now, if I leave my window open, I don't know how they get in, but they get in. I went by the cab in the daytime because I had an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
He went by there, and they came right in the cab and stuff like that, and I felt it. They control you. Whatever you used to do, they'll make you do it. Okay, like on a Friday, I spend a lot of money. I won't say it, but I spend a lot of money for nothing, and it's very scary. Okay?
Right.
That's why I want to move from here. So whatever he's saying and you're saying is true.
All right. Well, I thank you for calling. I hate to cut you off, but we're coming up on the news break here, so we have to break off. For the
Okay,
news.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Rocky.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. And so there you go. There's somebody who believes that they have that ability of discernment. We don't, people have their say here. We don't, we let them say what they want to say. So, but we are coming up against the news, so we do have to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk for a few minutes with our friend Dave Francis about a new venture that we've started on Facebook, of all places. Of all the places to have the paranormal be forwarded, social media is the place. We're going to talk about a new thing that we have going on called Paranormal Peer Review that you're going to want to get involved with. So we'll talk to him for a few minutes, and we'll get right back into the discussion about demonology, about demons, about these cases that are happening right in our own backyard with Scott and Rob of the Taunton Paranormal Group. So stay tuned for that coming up. And in the meantime, during the break, if you want to jump on Facebook, look up Paranormal Peer Review so that you'll know exactly what we're talking about in just a few minutes. We'll be right back with more here on Spooky South Coast.
First with local news, talk, your home. This is WBSM New Bedford, AM 1420. WBSM, a Cumulus station.
From ABC News, I'm Daria Albinger. The governor of Connecticut is getting impatient. Dan Malloy wants to know what's taking Connecticut Light and Power so long to restore service to thousands of customers a week after a snowstorm.
If at 10 a.m. tomorrow CLMP knows it's not going to meet its goal, I want to know that, and the people of Connecticut deserve to know that, and they deserve to know when the goal will be met.
The utility says there was no way to predict the impact of the storm. Occupy D.C. protesters took to the streets again today, a day after 3 demonstrators were hit by a car. Police say no charges will be filed because the driver had a green light and that the protesters ran at or jumped on the car. It was more than just the Occupy demonstrators that made the ground move today in Oakland, California.
They've already been shaking things up today with the closure of a Wells Fargo bank branch and plans for a rally against police brutality tonight. But this afternoon, a magnitude 3.2 quake jolted the crowd. It was centered about 4 miles from Oakland along the Hayward Fault, a fault that's seen a couple of these smaller quakes in the last month. No damage, but crews are checking the train tracks in the area just to be sure.
ABC's Kim McAllister in Oakland. The sexual harassment allegations that have dogged Herman Cain recently were off limits in his debate tonight with fellow Republican presidential candidate Newt Gingrich. But Cain made what some believe was an indirect reference to them.
There are too many people in the media that are downright dishonest. Not all, but too many of them do a disservice to the American people.
Social Security and Medicare were the main issues in the face-off. Most of the nation returns to standard time tomorrow. We set the clocks back an hour before we go to sleep, but what if you feel groggy tomorrow?
Really trying to get as much light, natural light, is ideal.
That's sleep expert Dr. Shelby Harris. You're listening to ABC News.
This season, when you trade in your old tangled-up Christmas lights at the Home Depot, you'll get up to $5 off a brand new string of holiday LEDs. They'll burn even brighter and use up to 80% less energy. So to find a lower energy bill under the Christmas tree this year, just bring in your old lights, working or not, for up to $5 off a new string of LEDs. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Valid through November 13th, U.S. only. Limit 5 per customer. See store for details.
If I set it free, I wonder how far it will go.
We're CenturyLink, a new kind of broadband company linking Americans across the country to what matters most. We're committed to providing better service with consistently fast speeds and 5-year price lock guarantees. And since we're locally operated, you'll be met by honest, straightforward service delivered by real people who are happy to help you explore what's next. See how far you might go. CenturyLink, your link to what's next. Find out more at CenturyLink.com.
Oh, give me freedom.
Authorities in Houston are trying to determine what made almost 24 high school students sick during a football game last night. Here's ABC's Karen Chase.
Witnesses say a hush fell over the crowd at a high school football game in Houston, Texas, when people suddenly started taking ill, mostly student band and color guard members, one after another.
They started just throwing up in the chest, and started with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Until it reached 22. Some reported breathing difficulties and dizziness, too. While the source of the trouble hasn't been confirmed, at least one of the students was treated for carbon monoxide poisoning. The mystery and the investigation continue. Karen Chase, ABC News.
There's a sad story from the sports world. Former heavyweight champ Joe Frazier is in hospice care. He's seriously ill with liver cancer. The former heavyweight champ's personal and business manager says a 67-year-old was diagnosed about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Frazier was the first man to beat Muhammad Ali in the so-called fight of the century back in 1971. The U.S. Capitol Christmas tree being readied for its 4,500-mile journey. From Northern California to Washington, D.C., the 65-foot snow-covered white fir tree was cut down and removed from a picturesque sitting in the Sierra Nevada mountains today. After a nationwide tour, the tree is scheduled to arrive in Washington, D.C. on November 28th. This is ABC News.
Is it time for a new roof? Get your roofing job done right. Call Sears Roofing right now for a free in-home estimate. That's Sears Roofing. Not available in all areas. Installation provided by Sears authorized licensed contractors. License information available upon request. Call Sears Roofing right now. 1-888-990-2233. That's 1-888-990-2233. 1-888-990-2233. Sears.
Daria Albinger, ABC News.
There's always a moment. The moment you decide to get involved, to get engaged.
This is my American story. When you teach someone to read, they have a sense of self-fulfillment.
Seeing family, friends fall victim of gang violence, drugs, it definitely made me want to serve.
There was a hole in the ground, and by the time we left, there was a house.
I realized that these kids were not getting a meal.
It is so easy to give back.
I don't have a lot of money to help people, but I do have something. I have time.
You can give any skill you have.
I see a great need in my community.
Just imagine how strong a society we could be.
This is Barack Obama. Every one of us has a role to play in making our communities and our country stronger. Discover yours. Help us continue to make a difference in the life of our nation. Go to serve.gov and find the opportunity that works for you. And this message is brought to you by the Corporation for National and Community Service.
AM 1420, WBSM, with Total Body Wellness. Every Tuesday morning on The Pete Braley Show. Join Rainey St. Laurent to Pharma Health as he covers a wide variety of topics designed to make you feel better. How to handle the side effects of certain vaccines. How to reduce the risk of breast and prostate cancer. How to sleep better. The benefits of vitamin D, and many more topics. Your host is a registered pharmacist, a board-certified clinical nutritionist, as well as a doctor of natural medicines. Total Body Wellness, every Tuesday morning at 8:25 with Pete Braley on AM 1420 WBSM.
Me? I started smoking when I was 13. I always thought when the time came, I could quit. No problem. Then at 28, I tried to go cold turkey, and I found out how hard it really was. I made it all day without a smoke. Right until I met up with the guys. But I learned something that night. In fact, every time I tried to quit, there were more than a few, I learned a little more about what worked and what didn't work for me. And when I realized that I wasn't alone, that most people don't quit on their first or second attempt, I knew there was still hope. Today, I'm an ex-smoker. My only advice is to never, ever give up trying to quit.
If you're trying to quit smoking, the American Lung Association is here to help every step of the way. Visit quitterinyou.org for tools, tips, and stories from smokers we've helped to finally quit for good. The American Lung Association. We support the quitter in you at quitterinyou.org.
Hi, my name's Bob. Hi, Bob. I see this ad on TV. Says I can reduce my debt by 50%. I call, they told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. They'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything to win your trust.
I'm more in debt now because the fees and interest on my cards kept piling up.
Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org. This has been a public service message.
This is Jack Peterson with the latest featured animal up for adoption at the Forever Paws Animal Shelter in Fall River. It's a basset hound named Betty. That's right, she's tan and white, 8 years old, irresistible with long floppy ears, and has the cutest spring in her gait as she moves. Betty loves to go for walks, is excellent on the leash, and gets along well with other animals. She loves attention and would make an excellent companion. Now, if you're 55 years of age or older, you are eligible to adopt Betty through the Senior to Senior Adoption Program, which is sponsored by the Coalition of Greater New Bedford, and Betty would become your best buddy for the adoption fee of just $5. What a deal for a true love bug. For more information, call the Forever Paws Animal Shelter at 508-677-9154 or visit their website at www.foreverpaws.com.
AM 1420, WBSM, is proud to be part of one of the single biggest events to help build the Red Cross food pantries. Cans Across the Park is Saturday, November 19th at Buttonwood Park in New Bedford. Last year, we lined up canned food items across the park and back again. We want to do even better this year as the need has grown. Join us on November 19th with as many non-perishable food items as you can donate. It does so much for so many of our neighbors. We thank our partners, Mechanics Cooperative Bank, Jose Costello Real Estate, C&R Enterprises, Pharma Health, and Advanced Financial Group for joining us in Cans Across the Park with the American Red Cross and AM 1420 WBSM.
We have to get on. We have to get on. We have so much time and so little to do. Strike that. Reverse it. This way, please.
Who's going to tell him? Oh, let's not wake him. He'll find out soon enough.
Let him have one last
The spooky South Coast is back.
No one is safe. Hold on tight. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2 of Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin, Matt Costa, and science advisor, Matt Moniz. You know, Matt Costa, I'm going to ask you some questions, even though you don't have a microphone to respond. You can use hand signals. But my friend Jill this week was talking with me and asking me about what the deal is with the lyrics of our theme song and what's being said. And the joke is, people say that it sounds like they're saying time for fat girls. And, somebody else told me once that it's time for this world, so I went with that. But I didn't realize it was time to understand the horror. It is. Yes. I also didn't realize exactly how much of this program we owe to that one song by RJD2. That's true. I watched the entire video on the YouTube, as the kids say. So on the interwebs? On the interwebs. So we thank you, RJD2, for not suing us and for us being so small time that you don't even realize that we exist. Although, I don't know, guy who does electronic house music, dudes who do a paranormal show in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. I mean, come on. He's not Moby. Who is I think there's Moby, Fatboy Slim, and there's a couple of guys who claim to be brothers. 2 different sets of brothers. Other than that, I couldn't tell you anybody that does that type of music. So, speaking of guys who do house music, let's bring on Dave Francis, which I have no idea what one has to do with the other. But he is ready to join us because we're going to talk about this new venture that we started this week. Because, Dave, if there's one thing that we need to do, it's add one more thing onto our paranormal plates. But we came up with this idea of paranormal peer review. And why don't you tell everybody what we have planned with that?
Oh, I'm telling you, man, my plate was just overflowing. I don't know about yours.
The paranormal plate, I'm talking.
Exactly, yeah. It was funny how it kind of started out because I'm one of these people that jumped on board. I've always had a fascination with it. I had experiences when I was younger. And as I, kind of matured a bit and started getting into it a little bit more, started with books because I was pre-internet up till about 99. Then I got onto the internet, and it was a Dave Giuliano site and a lot of those other places. So I was exposed to a lot of pictures of the orbs and everything else and kind of thought that was what it was all about. And as I became a researcher because of watching taps and stuff on TV and saying, hey, if these guys can do it, I can do it too, I started developing techniques and learning from people and kind of moving away from one group to one group to one group and seeing how people were doing things and realizing I wasn't getting my own questions answered. So, as I've developed, I've kind of gotten that skeptical point of view more as kind of following the mainstream ideas of how things go. So as I posted to you the other day, I was saying, God, I'm following these fraud sites lately. Everybody's posting that this is fraud and this is fraud and this is fraud. Wouldn't it be great if we just kind of had people look at things? And your response was perfect. This is what we need. We kind of need this peer review out there where people can just post stuff, and not just talking about paranormal researchers either. A lot of this stuff just comes from the average person. There's a guy taking a picture of his family, and all of a sudden there's something in the picture he can't explain, and he can get 50,000 answers from 50,000 different people. And a lot of times it's from a lot of people that, just aren't very technical or know a lot of the stuff that's going on.
Well, and it was one particular site that kind of set us both off. And, I'm not going to name the page, but there was another Facebook page where basically people were putting up photos, and this person that runs the page would comment on what they saw going on. And that's fine. We're fine with that. But the problem was when other people were trying to bring up possibilities, I don't want to say debunking, but I'll say bringing up other things to consider, they were being banned. They were being told that their comments aren't welcome there.
Oh, exactly. That's the major thing, too. And there was a couple of them. I think it was a couple of the YouTube sites that I'd gone to. The people, you're seeing them working with clients, and they've got the iPad out, and they're working with the Ghost Radar app, and they're telling them that the ghosts are coming
Those
through
work
a
awesome,
portal.
by the way.
Yeah, created by lightning, and there's just so much stuff out there that you're shaking your head, and as soon as you put one little bit of reason out there or tell them, hey, this is how this actually works, you're banned, you're knocked off, they don't want to hear it. And, with a client, that's somebody that's asking for somebody to come in and take a look at things and try to figure out what is really going on, whether it's normal or paranormal. So,
and what we've decided to do is we've decided to give that open forum where when you do post the evidence, you have to be prepared. Somebody might tell you that it's not a ghost. And
yeah,
more
exactly.
than likely it's not anyway. So, and that's
99% of the time, really.
But not only have we set it up, in a way that people can, and you can post, videos, you can post audio, and Dave's been great about putting up some documents that tell you how to do that without having to use compressed YouTube video, without having to use compressed audio from hosting it on Facebook. And so there's some documents up there to help you get along, and that's what's, I think, going to be really great about this, is it's not just going to be a site for you to submit evidence and have a bunch of people tell you what they think about it, but it's also going to be a way to learn about how to best present your evidence as well.
And that's what it's all about. I think learning, being able to put something out there, get some criticism back. And I think that's the trouble. So many people see the criticism, and it kind of goes against what they've already heard or seen. We've told people with this site, be respectful and be able to take this criticism, because this criticism is really what's going to help us grow and understand what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and that's how the field is going to grow as a whole. If we don't start taking our part in telling other people, hey, you might want to think about checking your camera settings because this happened here, or, your audio settings were set too low and we think this might have happened. Just being able to stay open-minded and go back and say, hey, I think they're right.
And
they eliminate that the next time. Or it may explain something to somebody, like I was saying, we have the people that just came in and posted stuff that aren't even researchers. They kind of open their minds to, hey, there's actually people out here to take this seriously. Mm-hmm. I'm not having 100 people tell me that I've got spirits running through my house or demons, infesting my dog or something. It's
the fun part about it that I've found over, and it's only a couple days old, and we've already got about 100 people involved with it. And the fun part for me is the fact that we'll put up a picture and say, we thought of this, we thought of this, we thought of this, and it doesn't seem to be any of those. And there always seems to be some sort of mistaken, anomaly that somebody else has encountered that we haven't. So, they might say, well, did you think about this? No, I didn't think about that. And that opens up a whole new area now for you to instantly debunk things when they happen.
Yep, and the best part about it is you're right on the internet. So if somebody gives you an answer like that and you're kind of guessing, hey, no, I really don't agree with that, hey, the search bar is right there. You can go up and you can check that stuff out and kind of figure things out for yourself. And
we've set it up so far with a few people moderating. And, of course, the idea behind the moderators are they're people, hey, it's me and Dave's page. We can decide who we want to make moderators. So it's people that we feel are what we're looking for in terms of the integrity of what we're doing. People who we know are going to be open-minded about evidence, who aren't going to allow personal attacks on people, who aren't going to allow the discussion get out of hand. So far, it's myself and Dave. It's Andrew Lake of Greenville Paranormal, and we've been lucky enough that Marie D. Jones has also jumped on board, and we've put it out there to a bunch of other people. I know Rosemary Ellen Guiley's interested in jumping on, and we've got a whole bunch of people that are going to be getting involved with this. So this is the place to get your evidence in front of people who can help you, and in front of not just, I'm not tooting our horns and saying, hey, we know what's a ghost and what isn't, but we know people who can help you. We know people who, if it needs a certain type of analysis. One thing that comes to mind, Dave, is the picture that I posted up that Renee Carr took at Lizzie Borden's of my shirt being lifted up. And, that was an incident where at that moment my shirt was physically being lifted and everybody could see it. And she snapped a picture and she caught this red mist. And one of the gentlemen that came on board actually embossed the photo, and you got a different perspective of it. And that's a technique that I never would have thought of doing. And he explained the difference of what you can see two-dimensionally and three-dimensionally by doing that.
Oh, exactly. That was a great, example of that, because I never even knew that, that you couldn't differentiate the two, and then the color even stayed through when he embossed it. So it was, that was kind of mind-boggling, and then it got me going in and checking things out for myself to say, hey, well, I really need to start learning a little bit more about this.
And then I posted that picture of Chris Moon turning on the telephone to the dead in the basement of Lizzie Borden's, and Chris Moon had never even seen that photo before, and he jumps in and he was talking about how that happens sometimes when he turns it on, but never to that extent. So he was blown away by that photo, but then again the discussion opened up. They're orbs. What could they be? And we got about 20 posts with people going back and forth about what exactly could be going on there. So I mean, this is the discourse that we need for this evidence. We don't just need one person saying, "Yeah, you got a ghost, great job," or one person saying, "No, that's dust, move on." We have the chance to actually keep breaking these down and keep analyzing them, and they're all posted right up there so people can go back to them and check them out. So Paranormal Peer Review on Facebook. If you go to my Facebook, Tim Weisberg, I've been posting it up on there. We've been linking it up on the Spooky South Coast Facebook page. I know Dave's been linking it on his page. So just go look it up. Just type in Paranormal Peer Review. You're going to find it. Like us. And it's not a group, so you don't have to join it and get a whole bunch of emails sent to you every day. And it's not going to be, something that's going to start taking up your time. Just when you log into Facebook, it'll be right there under your pages. You can get involved with it if you want. If not, go on and do whatever else you're doing. But that's what it's called. Paranormal Peer Review. Get involved, like it, join up, let us know, submit your evidence, and let's get the conversation rolling. Thanks, Dave, for joining us.
Oh, no, thanks for having me on, Tim. And it was really great to hear Scott and Rob tonight.
All right, and we're going to hear a whole bunch more with them. So we'll see you in the chat room.
Have a good one.
Good day. That is independent researcher Dave Francis. You've seen him on the Travel Channel and for his work at Stone's Public House, and he helped me out immensely with the chapter on that for the book that Chris Balzano and I are working on that we're right up against the deadline for. So if you have a haunted item story that you want to submit to us, just email spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com. It doesn't have to be a big involved story. We'll take little short stories, whatever you have. If you have a photo, great, but we want to hear about your haunted, cursed, and possessed objects. And if you jump in the chat room on SpookySouthCoast.com and Spooky TV, Chris is in there as Hilly Rose, and he'll let you know exactly what kind of stories he needs. So let's move on now with the discussion. We'll talk with Scott and Rob some more from Taunton Paranormal Group about demonology, about demonic cases. And one of the questions that I did want to ask in the first hour, and we were kind of running out of time there a little bit, is how do you handle something that is just a negative ghost, something that is just a bad ghost? How would you deal with that in comparison to dealing with a demonic case?
Well, if we're dealing with something malevolent that's not demonic, it may be a malevolent human spirit, Father Bob would come in and try to do a crossing over, and sometimes they won't go, kind of try to coerce it, and use the prayer and blessing and really just try to I really don't know how he does it per se. Mm-hmm. He has a ritual that he does and tries to coerce the spirit to move on. Either that or have the angels, Archangel Michael, come to try and guide him, whether it be to the foot of Jesus or to the next realm. I don't think we've really seen many malevolent human spirits. Yeah. Usually with the hauntings that we've done, that were real, turned out to be true hauntings. It's been, just something looking for attention, or something of a demonic nature that would require either the liberation of a home or person. Not many with just, a negative human spirit.
Has there been any incident when you're going to one of these homes where somebody feels that what they're dealing with is a demon or something, of that nature, and it turns out that it's, it's not. It's just a regular, ordinary, plain, nothing malevolent spirit, and it's their own belief system that's made them think that it's something evil?
Yeah, actually, recently we had one that, they were adamant that it was something of a demonic nature, and we did a couple of investigations, and we had Father Bob go in, and there was really nothing that showed us that it was anything of a demonic nature. I think for that one client, I think whether they just believed wholeheartedly that it was something of a negative nature, and we didn't find anything to show that. But something, he'll come in and do the blessing and a liberation. I've never seen prayer hurt anybody. Mm-hmm. And, I hate to say it like this, but even if it's, something of maybe a mental issue, even a placebo effect.
Yep.
If it helps, then God bless him,
Well, I don't know if
something good.
I don't know if you've seen that film, The Last Exorcism. And in that story, in that movie, not to ruin it for anybody, but the exorcist that's in that movie thinks that it's all just for show. And he thinks that he's really just there to help the people. And it turns out, gets involved with the case, it isn't that way. But some people do feel it is that way. And as long as somebody like Father Bob knows that with that particular spirit, it won't do more damage than good, then I don't see anything wrong with it if it makes the client feel better about it. Right. Especially if it's somebody who feels like it's, getting to them personally. If they're worried that they're getting into that oppressive state, then I'd rather they feel like it's gone, because we know what paranoia can do to somebody anyway.
Right. And he kind of, does a little bit talking with other family members or whoever may be involved, see if there is a history of any maybe psych issues, mm-hmm. or, anything along those lines, to try and, evaluate, okay, which direction are we going in? So it's not just, okay, they say it's something demonic and, just goes in assuming that. We do try to, weigh it out and see if there are other issues involved.
All right, well, if you'd like to call in with a question for Taunton Paranormal Group, you can give us a call, 1-877-996-1420, 508-996-0500. You can also email us, spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com, jump in the chat room on Spooky TV at spookysouthcoast.com. So many ways to get your questions answered, so feel free to just ask away. One of the kind of the conceits of pop culture demonology, the things that we see in movies about exorcisms and about these types of cases, is that you have to have the demon reveal its name in order to gain the power over it and get rid of it. And we hear so often that there is this hierarchy of demons and that they do have names, but do they share those with you? Is it necessary to get those names from them?
Well, go ahead, Scotty.
A lot of the times, what we've read and what we've learned is that they'll lie to you. They'll straight out lie to you. Sure. And you could ask what you believe to be a demon their name, and just to throw it out there, they could say their name's Tim. And chances are their name isn't Tim, or they could throw their name out and, it could be anything. They could say that their name's Satan, which clearly we understand from what we've read and learned, obviously, is that chances are it's probably not Satan.
And if it is, you got to call Jeff Belanger, because he's a Satanologist.
Well, there's another point too. You're not dealing with possession. You're dealing most likely with an oppression. For an oppression, you really don't need the demon's name. Mm-hmm. You're saying there are hierarchies of angels. Well, that also falls true for demons. There are demons that are higher and, more powerful, and then there's a lower level. When you're dealing with a possession and you need an exorcist, they know how to do that, and yes, they would most likely have more power over the demon if they could get its name. But dealing with an oppression, the name is not essential.
So it's just a matter of it hasn't gained enough of a foothold yet,
right,
that you can't.
It's an
I don't want to use the word
attack.
exercise it, but you can't get rid of it without reaching that level?
Well, I think if you're dealing with a full possession, I think if they can gain its name, an exorcist would know how to do that. Like I said, Father Bob does deliverance. It's along those lines, but it's not the same because, like I said, possession it's taking full control over the body. Not the soul, but it's an internal thing now. Oppression is an attack from the outside, so it hasn't gained control over the person. It may be causing pain or some sort of attack, but at least what he's come to find is that the name is not so essential. And as Scotty said, they will lie. So I mean, the chances of us getting a true name, I don't think it's going to happen. And truthfully, we were told that we came up against Baal once. I seriously doubt it was Baal, because that's one of the higher level demons. But these lower level things will lie to you and give you, make you think you're coming up against something that's stronger.
Isn't it like part of the procedures and guidelines of being a demon and the job of trying to achieve possession? It's like one of the things you have to say that you're Satan.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. Like you have to have a capital letter in your password when you log into your bank account. You have to say that you're Satan when you're trying to possess somebody. It's just one of the procedures.
Well, it may be true.
we shouldn't make light, of course, but I mean, especially when we're talking about something that's so serious. One of the things that I've often wondered when it comes to these cases is there a common thread that you see in the people who are being targeted by these demons? Is there something that they're doing that's setting them up for this to come into their lives, whether it be through their own doing or is it through just other ulterior circumstances? But is there a common thread in who it is that are being targeted by these demons?
That's a good question. I've posed that to Father Bob too. I think we all have. And you can have somebody who's completely devout that is dealing with all sorts of oppression, and then you can have somebody who has no religion whatsoever, or maybe, I don't know, an atheist or agnostic or whatever it may be, and have the same things going on. I don't think that there's anything particular. I think there are things that may make things happen. Dabbling where you really shouldn't may cause things to happen more. Even being in a paranormal group, going into a place, not knowing if you're going to walk into something of a demonic nature, thinking you're going into a regular haunting. I mean, that's happened to us.
Not protecting yourself.
That's
I
know
a
good
we
point.
do protection prayers before we enter a home or a building, and we do protection prayers after we leave. I think that's a big thing that I'm not sure a lot of groups out there do, whether you're doing regular haunts or demonic. I think a lot of people don't realize that sometimes you can walk into anything going into an investigation. You never know. So I think it's always, I know that's a big thing we always preach when we're talking to other people, is make sure you protect yourself before you go in.
Yeah, he'll actually, bless a whole case of spring water, and we'll drink that prior. If we know we're going into a demonic case, we'll actually drink the blessed water.
Sure, fill it up. Get the holy water in you, and then, if you need to, you can just unzip and disperse.
I was going to say drinking is not going to hurt you. It's all in the belief of the person. But
right,
I mean,
right.
When you're dealing with this stuff, making these prophylactic prayers before and after is well and good. But if you're not spiritually set, even beyond coming in and going into dealing with these things, is doing the prayers just at the time before you walk out, and when you leave, is really not going to do anything.
You
if
can't
you don't
just say
have
the
any
words. You have
right.
to have some sort of faith, and you really have to have faith.
I don't do any kind of protection prayer before I investigate, because with me it's implied. You stay here. You're not coming with me. And I think if you have that kind of belief and attitude and approach about yourself, then that might work just as well, because I don't necessarily know that in my beliefs the prayer would matter. So to me, it's just more with how I carry myself when I'm involved in an investigation. So, I mean, it can work for different people. I mean, it could just be that I'm lucky so far, too.
Well, I think, provoking is another issue in itself.
Yeah, you don't want to investigate with me.
No.
I make Zach Bagans look like, I make him look like a little old lady.
Well, I mean, our thing is, if you're dealing with the human spirit, really, I don't think there's a lot that you really need to provoke with. And if you're dealing with something demonic, you never provoke in your own name. You always in the name of Jesus Christ, because we don't have power over the demons. They'd laugh at us, But it says in the Bible, in my name you can cast out demons.
Mhm.
So, and faith, again, it's the most important thing. You really have to have some form of faith.
Well, one of the questions that popped up here, and I'll kind of give a for instance here, but when you're dealing with a baseball team, and not that this is any kind of sport, but when you're dealing with a baseball team, pitchers know that certain hitters have certain tendencies, and hitters know that certain pitchers have certain tendencies, and it gets to be there's a plan for how to deal with a particular opponent. Or pretty much, anything else. You know the tendencies of your opponent, and you know how to deal with them in the best, most efficient way based on the past history of how they've performed. Does it work that way with demons? Are some of these demons identifiable? And when you can identify who they are by whatever they're doing, does it make it that there's certain ways that you can get rid of them faster or more efficiently?
I think in the deliverance end of it, I think we've, along with Father Bob, obviously, come up with a solution on the way to do the deliverance. We'd start outside, thus sealing everything on the outside, not letting anything else in. And then I believe he starts on the bottom floor and works his way up.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part.
For the most part. And
when you're working in a room too, isn't it like corners out? Like, isn't that how you're supposed to kind of?
Well, she does the prayers. Usually there's a couple of us, and we'll do the sacramentals, which consist of the holy water, holy salt, and blessed incense. And kind of go corner to corner, the windows, doorways, finish one floor of the house, and then go up, and, he'll seal off if there's an attic. He'll seal that off and cover essentially the entire portion, whatever, from basement to attic in the house, and then, like Scotty was saying, go around the perimeter of the house and do a hedge of protection around the entire property. It's been tweaked. We used to do it one way a couple of years ago, and he's found that certain things work better than others. And I guess going by the cases that we've done, and we do keep in touch with everybody that we've gone to help out and touch base with them. And for the most part, we've had pretty good success, at least coming from each client. Of course, there's times where it takes more than once to go in, and usually it seems to go pretty well. So I think we're doing something right.
Yeah, well, we'll throw out the numbers again: 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. If you want to call in with any questions for our group, our guests, Taunton Paranormal Group. And you guys also host a TV show, right? It's a TV show people can catch.
Yes, we do. We've just started really trying to put it on Facebook to get it out. We've actually found a site that allows us to put the whole half-hour show on. We were having troubles before with YouTube only allowing a 10-minute video. They wouldn't allow us a director's cut.
Yeah,
name.
it comes with time.
Yeah,
right.
And so we've done that. We're in, I believe right now, just Taunton.
Yeah, we're in Taunton now. We air Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, and we air bi-weekly. So we'll do one episode or one for 2 weeks, and then we'll do another. And we were doing mainly the investigations and trying to get the more of the information portion of it out there. Some of the evidence that we caught, and we're trying to do more in-studio shoots with guests now.
Mm-hmm.
We've had Carl Johnson on. We had Lorraine Warren on. Father Bob numerous times. So we're trying to reach out to other you guys. I think we're going to try and have you guys come on.
Sure.
And wow, you're really rubbing the bottom of the barrel.
You get Father Bob, you get Lorraine Warren, and then when nobody else answers the phone, Spooky Southcoast.
Just to get it out there, I think it's Lorraine Warren and Father Bob.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, we work with Father Bob, but I think he'd even.
I just mean in terms of accessibility. You have to wait for Lorraine to come to you. I mean, you have to wait till you can get to Lorraine because she's getting up there and things are getting tougher for her. But one thing too, I will extend the invitation if you guys want. You're more than welcome to broadcast on Spooky TV too. Just you can take your past episodes and pick a time slot, and I'll go through the whole process with you if I'd upload them.
Oh, great. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Because we're trying to make our Spooky TV network be something that people can go to catch all these shows. So, if if it is airing and it is an old episode, you can put it up there, and while it's running, you can be in the chat room sharing with people, more of the behind-the-scenes story of it. So
That'd
be
nice.
cool.
Well, that falls into networking too, and it would be nice if a lot of the groups would network more. I mean, unfortunately, and not so much now, but in the beginning, it seemed like everybody was kind of like very
standoffish.
Standoffish is a good word.
Nobody wanted to share what they were getting
Yeah.
for fear that somebody else was going to maybe, I don't know, take claim over it.
It's been like that for a long
Yeah, but we say that too, but at the same time, we've actually had instances where that's happened. There's been instances where we've had evidence that was given to us by somebody else, and we've gone and done a television show, and it's been presented as if it was our evidence, and credit isn't given. Now, we actually fill out paperwork.
Yep.
And as I'm sure you guys do with Animal Planet, whenever you go on these shows, you sign releases for them to use your evidence and to use your likeness and all that stuff. And we make it a point to put on all this paperwork who it was that we got this evidence from.
Right.
We wanted to say, sure, courtesy of Spooky Southcoast / Whaling City Ghost / Dart. We want people who actually capture this evidence to get their credit, and we're just a conduit for how it got on the air.
Right.
And they don't do that. The
Exactly.
production people don't care about that because they don't really give a crap who gave them the evidence.
Right.
And they think it's a distraction to have to put that up there on the screen.
I'll tell you, because we produce and edit Haunted Happenings ourselves, anybody that comes on, we do give credit to.
There you go.
But speaking from our experience with Animal Planet, we will not do national television
So
anymore.
you know what we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. We signed the papers, and that was the last we saw until it aired. And I had, people attacking me saying, well, you did this, this, and this. And I'm like, hey, I gave them the footage, and from where it went from there, I had nothing to do with it. And, people called me a liar.
We actually have an instance that we joke about all the time. We usually have our meetings at Rob's house, and probably about once a meeting, somebody will bring up in the episode they put not far from Jake's home is Dogtown. Well, Dogtown's actually in Gloucester, which is actually nowhere near Taunton.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I got hell for that too. It was my fault.
Yeah.
Well, we've dealt with. We've done a few of these shows because whenever anybody goes to Lizzie Borden's, they call me and Moniz because we've had pretty profound experiences there, and we've had to go there and actually sit through the process of going in and out of a door 15 times
Oh my
so they can
God.
get the take right.
Oh, yeah.
And then we went and we filmed the episode of Ghost Lab that happened there, and none of what we filmed got used in the episode. And it got to the point when I was watching on television, they got about 15 minutes in, and I was like, oh, please, God, let me be on the cutting room floor of this one, because I don't want myself associated with what the show is. And as you said, you don't have any control over anything. They're not going to show us any kind of pre-edits or anything. So for us, all we can do is just hope that whatever we provided them fits in a way that contributes to what they're doing and doesn't make us look stupid.
Right.
That was my big fear recently with Ghost Adventures. I'm not...
That luckily worked out all right.
It
though.
did.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% behind everything that goes on that show. And I wanted to make sure that, when we were presented, that we didn't come across looking stupid. And,
Right.
and I now know more about the behind the scenes of that show. I know more about those guys, and I understand it more, and I have a better appreciation for it. But at the time, I'm concerned. And, sure enough, the episode airs, and you get Zach's narrative, which is, if you're not a fan of those guys, it's kind of laugh-inducing. And I'm watching it in a newsroom full of, hardened news veterans, and they're like, really? You're going to be on this show? And that's just, but, to people in the paranormal, they don't have that approach to it.
Right. It was crazy, too, because we did 2 episodes for Animal Planet. One actually dealt with our group. And then in New York, we helped out a team called Pistols. And I sent them probably 20 hours of footage for them to turn around and do a 30-second clip, mainly with just Father Bob in it. And it was really terrible. Because I wrote them saying, please don't use any with me in it. Use their team. Use, the guys from my team that, whatever. And they did 30 seconds of 20 hours of footage and didn't even give Pistols credit, I don't think.
No.
It was their case.
It was Father Bob and his
essentially,
his group.
I think it was they just wanted Father
put it
Bob
out as.
on their show for that, and it had nothing to do with the episode that was airing. It was crazy.
Let's not even bring up the fact that why is Animal Planet doing these shows anyway? Some of them do have that animal connection to them, and some of them I'm just like, huh?
I think they've strayed. I don't even know if they're doing another season, to be honest. I wrote one of the producers and asked them, what was going on, and I got back, sorry, I don't really have that information. But even ours, was about what was happening with our Pomeranian, and next thing you know, it's me being seduced by an incubus, a succubus or something, more so than what was happening with the dog.
How'd that work out for you?
Well, I will not do national television again, I'll say that.
Well, the biggest part of the problem was that they probably wanted to bring in a woman to reenact it as you're laying there in the bed, and you have to explain that to the wife,
Yeah.
honey, this is what they want me to do.
Well, something, not that we were looking for money, but they didn't offer us any money. I think they gave us leftovers, and they
Don't get me started on that.
$1,000 for a stunt dog that they didn't use that looked nothing like our dog. I mean, it was, I just don't get the whole thing.
Oh, you definitely can't expect to get paid in these type of shows.
Well, we weren't really looking for it, but it was. I just found it crazy that they would pay $1,000 for a dog.
I think what Rob's trying to say, more than get paid, that we sent them all our footage, and they wanted it overnighted and everything.
Oh, yeah. And they don't reimburse you
wouldn't
for that.
reimburse
Right.
you for that.
Yeah.
See, here's a lesson that I've learned. This is the lesson that you need to take with you. If you haven't already figured it out on your own, let me just pass this on to you in case you ever do change your mind and decide to do one of these shows. You ask them for their FedEx number.
Oh no, that was taken care of.
Yeah, you don't ever say, "Yeah, I'll ship it to you." You'd be like, "No, what's your FedEx number?"
Yeah,
and then let them foot the bill for that. But and the other thing that like I said, you can't expect to get paid, and none of us really do.
No.
But if we're going to be getting there, and you're going to make us wait around 45, 50, an hour and a half. While you're having your lunch break, you could offer us a couple slices of pizza. I mean, it's not that hard.
They just for a story, I know, kind of straying off where we were meant to go.
This is fun though.
But they had called us. It was myself, Rob, and Lou at the time. Lou, our co-founder at the time, was we were sitting at Rob's house waiting for the crew to arrive, and they called Rob and said, "Don't worry about it, guys. We're bringing you dinner tonight. No big deal." So we didn't think anything of it, They're like, "Oh, we're going to bring you Olive Garden." And at the time, my fiance at the time was working at Olive Garden. So I had sent her a text message, I said, "Oh, did anybody come in and get a big order?" She said, "Yeah, a couple of people came in about noontime and got, a whole bunch of stuff. But other than that, nobody had come in." I was like, "Oh, okay, it's like 4 o'clock." They show up probably about 6:30 with the food, and of course I know what they serve at Olive Garden, obviously, because and it was actually half a salad, like 3 breadsticks, and like a half a thing of pasta. So they had already rummaged through it at their hotel and then brought it over. And
of course, to other paranormal groups, we're sitting around here like, "Oh wow, listen to how we're mistreated by all the national television exposure that we've gotten." But a lot of these people would kill to get their piece of golden evidence in front of that many eyes. But it's just a lesson learned for people that do aspire to that. Be careful, because we're sharing with you what's happened to us, so that you're a little wiser going into it. And I think that especially when you're dealing with something like the demonic, which is the hot and popular topic now, it's only going to be a matter of time before you work on a case that one of these television shows is going to want to come in and either profile you or take over the case completely and put their people in it. So you have to kind of be aware of that, because we've gotten to the point where regular ghosts are kind of boring television now.
Well, I think the shock factor is a big thing, especially when ratings are involved. But I do want to touch on the animal planet. The people that came down were great people. I don't want to, they really were good people.
That's because they hire local production people who are awesome and might run into you somewhere, so they're nice to you. It's those network folks that are like, "Yeah, we just want your story."
Actually, it was the I guess they have a group that travels with them, because Father Bob actually knew about 4 or 5 of them from working on Paranormal State. But
I think it was just that there was a lot involved. I mean, they were there for over a week, like 10 hours a day, and for the amount of footage they took, it was minimal that we actually got used.
That's what I would caution people out there that do aspire to be on national television, as most people, well, I shouldn't say most people, but a lot of people find that as the holy grail. And it's not exactly all you think it is.
No.
I mean, I hear from people who go out there and film weekly television shows. We're friends with a lot of these people, and they tell us, if I had known this is what it was when I signed up for it, I wouldn't have stuck with it. Because it's taxing, and it takes away from being. I mean, that's why you see a lot of these shows getting away from, or some shows not even getting involved with the private cases, because you're not actually offering the people the help that they need if you're also filming a television show around it. It's impossible to do both things at once to 100% effectiveness.
Yeah.
So that's why we're seeing more of these more historic haunts, these more public haunts, because it's doing a disservice to the private homeowner to try to do the same thing at the same time. And then if you go into the homeowner's house to recreate it after you've already gone in there and done the investigation, well, now it's just staged.
Right.
So it's, you're in one of those catch-22s.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, especially when editing falls into the factor, and like I said, ratings. I mean, when they're like, I don't want to use any specific ones, but when they have to make their numbers to make their money, and not that anything's being faked, but things don't actually fall into place the way they may have happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It makes people question it.
But is that the group's fault, or is that the part of the editors and the producers?
I think it's probably more the editors and producers, depending on how much the group's involvement is, like how much control they have over it.
Well, one of the most famous only has a limited amount of say in the total production of the show, and we know this from knowing these people personally.
They got a bad deal, that's why.
Yeah.
They should have just held out a few more years and let everybody else go first. But I don't know about you guys, but I know that every time that I investigate, and I'm talking a regular investigation with no camera crews around there, whenever anything paranormal is going to happen, I start to hear that music intensify. And then one of us just has to say, "What was that?" And then, bam, there you go, activity.
Yep.
That's all it takes. So
that's the nice thing about doing the local access is we don't have to produce because we don't get paid for it anyway, and nobody's going to tell us, you know what, you're off the air. So whether we have a low-key show or whatever. Well, yeah.
It just has to draw people's attention. And even then, it's cable access. You don't really have to draw people's attention.
No.
You just have to take the class and learn how to do it and do it right. As long as you don't break the camera, they don't really cancel you.
Right.
But, the good thing, though, about cable access especially, and we've seen it happen with friends of ours who do cable access shows, you do build up a network. And you were saying before, Scott, about how people have to work together. And when you can, there's somewhere in Kansas, there's a group that does a show like yours.
Yep.
And they might have different hauntings, they might have different cases, they might have different theories and different experiences. So they can send their show to you guys, you can send your show to them, and you can sponsor it on each other's cable systems. And I can tell you right now,
Peg Media. Look it up. Peg Media is where you can upload your shows.
And the stations can share it back
stations
and forth,
can download them and share them.
It's kind of the same. It's kind of like the same service that PBS used to work under, where they would kind of put it all into one central database, and people could produce programs and have it air on the different networks.
And I think, like you said about the, cross-referencing with other groups about things. Not to sound like Mick Foley here with a cheap plug, but Paranormal Peer Review on Facebook.
There you go. Yeah.
Give it a like.
Speaking of Mick Foley, he's coming to Wareham. Coming up, I believe it's November 17th. He's doing a charity comedy show now that he's doing stand-up comedy. He's doing a show at Salerno's Function Hall to raise money for a good cause. And our buddy Roger over at Sinner and Saints Tattoo is the one who's actually putting this all together. And there's actually going to be an autograph session beforehand at Sinners and Saints where if you come and just bring a canned good, you can get an autograph from Mick Foley. So definitely, I'll be there. It's right down the street from and I've met Mick on numerous occasions. He's a great guy. And so definitely get out there and help a good cause. We'll have Uncle Roger on to talk about that coming up in the next few weeks.
Sounds good. More.
Yeah, but definitely check out Peg Media. It'll get you far more exposure. As you know, I'm one of the hosts of 30 Odd Minutes with Belanger, and we upload 30 odd to Peg Media, and that's gotten us out to close to 6 million possible homes throughout the country. I mean, it costs a little bit to once you're in, but it opens up a whole new avenue to places across the country.
And I can tell you, cable access stations, they love the paranormal stuff because it's
really
one of the
hot
few.
for them.
It's one of the few things that you're going to get viewers, and it's one of the few things where the people are really passionate about producing the television and coming up with new and innovative ways of doing it. Because so many of these shows exist that do something the way they do it. then it's the paranormal groups trying to find a different way to make sure that they're finding their own niche. So it makes for much more compelling television than the usual, no offense to anybody, but the two chairs in front of the palms and the table.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to some people, some studios, they won't let you do more than that. Others are willing to let you take risks. So it's definitely a way to go. And you know, don't wait around waiting for a network to offer you a show. Start producing on your own. That's the way to do it.
Can't hurt.
No.
You know.
We were looking for a while trying to find an avenue online. You know, it just wasn't a lot out there at that time. So
the hard part about it too is you're competing with people's entertainment time. You know, and that's the biggest problem with this is there's so many options now. Back in the 80s, if there had been enough of these paranormal shows on cable access back then, we wouldn't have had to wait for this big surge to come now. I mean, this would have been a lot. You know, if we had more Dr. Venkman type shows. No, but actual, you know, if we were doing the kind of things that we're doing now on cable access back then, I mean, I used to do a kids game show, you know what I mean, and on Thursday nights, and that might have been more watched than some of the other shows that were going on, you know, within our school. Right. You know, more kids watch that than they watch the network shows, and that's when it mattered. So, you know, that might have been the way to do it, but hey, whatever. Hindsight's 20/20. And I don't know what Mark said. Uncle Tim? No, I didn't. I did not dress as a clown and have children sit on my lap. I just asked questions and gave prizes away.
I do. I told Mark that last week he asked me a question in the chat, and I told him I'd tell the story. We had shown up. He'd asked me a question about chip coffee, and I got to tell the story because I think it's hilarious. We showed up one night to a investigation, a local investigation, and the lady let us in. You know, no big deal. And after a while, she looks at us and says, "I don't want to be on TV." Thought it was kind of weird, but she looks around after a few minutes and she goes, "Excuse me, guys, where's Chip?" And we looked at it. We all looked at each other and we were kind of like, we're not PRS, ma'am. You know, it was just funny because it had come through Father Bob, so I don't know if she assumed that
because
it was paranormal, you know, PRS.
I've got the team coming out. Oh, good.
Yeah.
You know,
maybe Ryan will
and
bring
then
his
she
demons.
wouldn't let us leave.
Well, there you go. See, it's not all it's not all it's cracked up to be when TV starts infesting your life. Speaking of which, Spooky TV, you want to tune in on Tuesday nights and watch Tiffany Rice with her show Spirit Connections. They had a great event going on today, Matt. They had a good turnout.
Relatively decent turnout. Myself, Andy Lake, Carlson Chops Woods from Phantom PI, John Brightman also stopped by. It was an interesting time. We had various mediums there doing readings for people at a reduced rate. A lot of people enjoyed my little paranormal collection of physical items and stuff like that.
Which was really just, you know, old underwear and... you got to see his stuff. He's got some good stuff. And but you can catch our show Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock on Spooky TV and also on Wareham Television. And Haunted Happenings, when can people catch that?
That's Tuesday at 9:30, Friday at 6:30 p.m., and Sunday at 9:30 on Channel 15, Comcast, 22 on Verizon.
There you go. And
in Taunton.
And hopefully we can get them to put it on Spooky TV as well. But we have plenty of shows coming up on Spooky TV too as the year goes on.
Mind if I promote something?
Absolutely.
I now will be leading haunted tours of the Lizzie Borden house every weekend. 2 tours per day, Saturday and Sunday. Only $15 a person, and I take you through the entire house and give you the entire haunted history of each room.
Wow. I hope John Gomes isn't listening.
Speaking of which, we do have 4 tickets left for our Dead of Winter 2012 event coming up on February 25th. The rooms are all gone. They've all been rented out, but we do have 4 tickets remaining. If you go to jeffbelanger.com, the link is on there, and I've been putting it up on Facebook too, so you can buy those 4 last tickets, $125. You get to come check out the house, investigate all night with the Spooky Crew and Jeff Belanger and Andy Lake, and we're going to have lectures, we're going to have book signings, Q&A, and dinner. It's everything that you need all in one night. So, and you know, if it doesn't matter that you can't get a room because they're all sold out, you're not going to want to go to sleep after you spend all that time at Lizzie Borden. So,
well, there was some neat activity on the tours I did over the weekend. I had a group come through, close to 30 people, And as we're leaving one of the third floor rooms, one of the chair moves out from the railing right into the middle of the room as we're walking out.
Wow.
So there you go. You don't want to miss
we
that.
actually went by there last summer. It was my wife and 2 kids with me, and we were in, I think it was the mother's bedroom upstairs, and there's a coat rack actually came down right in between the 2 of us. And we were a good couple of feet away from it, so that was kind of interesting.
Oh, that place is wild.
My favorite thing is just whenever we order pizzas, I always answer the front, because nobody uses the front door. You're not supposed to use the front door there. So whenever the pizza guy comes and he knocks on the front door, I just answer it holding the axe. Next time, go around the side. All right, well, that about does it for this week's show. Again, we want to remind you, Spooky TV all week long. There's all kinds of stuff happening. WarehamRadio.com, too. That's the new venture that we have going on. Paranormal Peer Review on Facebook. There's so much stuff to plug. I have too much free time on my hands now. But we got all kinds of things for you to check out and to go on. You guys have a website for Taunton Paranormal Group?
Not currently.
All right, well...
You can find us all. We're both on Facebook. You can find us on
actually,
Facebook.
they can go to pwsm-ri.org, which is Father Bob's PWSM network website.
There you go.
And there's good information there, especially for paranormal groups.
All right, we'll be back next week with our guest Michael Allegian, who with his new work, Prepare for the Landing. And this is going to be another one of those fun nights where we're going to have to put something in Matt Moniz's mouth and kind of muzzle him a little bit. This is going to be a good one. So you don't want to miss that. Stay tuned for that. We'll be back next Saturday night at the regular time, 10:15 Eastern time, or whenever the Bruins decide to let us go on. They've been really good the last couple of weeks, so hopefully that keeps going. And we'll be back to talk with you more about that. So until then, for Matt Costa, for Matt Moniz, for Chris Balzano, I'm Tim Weisberg. I want you all to stay spooktacular.
First with local news, talk, and sports. This is WBSM New Bedford, AM 1420. WBSM, a Cumulus station.
From ABC News, I'm Sharon Reed. Presidential hopeful Herman Cain is digging in his heels. Following a one-on-one debate Saturday night with rival Newt Gingrich, Cain told reporters he'll have nothing more to say about those decade-old allegations of sexual harassment. ABC's Arlette Science was at the Houston event.
The debate organizers decided the topic of sexual harassment claims was off limits during the 90-minute two-man debate. But in the press conference after the debate, reporters clashed with Cain as they asked questions of him. One person even asking if he never planned to answer questions about the sexual harassment claims, to which Cain said, "You got it."
During the debate, Cain